Okay, so this is what we're talking about here, where the computer is sucking your students in way more than you ever will be, and this is the kind of thing that you see lah. Right? And the thing I love about Facebook, okay, gotta give Mark Zuckerberg some props, right? The thing I love about it is from far you know it's Facebook. Right? So from far I walk around, I'm like, okay, I know it's Facebook already. As opposed to anything else, and something else I might be like, I'm not sure, could it be like, something educational? But Facebook, you know the blue bar, you know how it looks like. Those of you who don't have Facebook, try it, it's seriously cool. Okay, so once you see it, you know from far it's Facebook, and immediately you can tell that this is something that's not part of class, unless you use Facebook for your class. Okay, so I'll talk about that later as well. So I'm sure you've seen this before. I love this clip, which I got off Google, of course. And students are like, who cares? I'm telling you the truth. Yeah, I'm not paying attention. Right? Yeah, I use Facebook. And look at the way that this is communicated. No big deal. I shouldn't feel guilty. Why should I feel guilty? Facebook, that's what I do. And interesting to us as well, I know a lot of you are not doing it here in workshop, right? Where you're focusing and paying attention. I've been in workshops where they have participants, they're checking their phone, they go out, don't know what, make call or whatever. Of course, most participants don't have laptops. So sometimes I ask, I ask the participants that I'm with, what makes you different from your student? If you reflect a little bit, when you go for a talk, you go for a seminar, or you go to a workshop, if you check your phone, right? If you're checking your gadget, God forbid it's Facebook, but of course a lot of you probably have Facebook as well. So if you're checking your gadget, then my question is, what makes you check your gadget? Rather than think, why am a student checking Facebook? Ask yourself, why are you checking your phone? Why are you checking your SMSs? Why are you sending SMSs during seminars, talks, workshops? Right? I know a lot of you are not doing it here, but the question to ask is, what if, when you are doing it, why are you doing it? So that you can sort of try to relate a little bit to your students, what's going on with them, right? Because sometimes it's not always what you think. Okay, sometimes it could be something important that they need to update. Everything important in their lives happen on Facebook. In fact, very sadly, one of my ex-students, recently his mother was admitted to hospital. She had like a brain aneurysm, and it was shocking to me. I mean, not shocking everybody, but probably to me it was shocking, where he posted everything about the mother's condition on Facebook, and then he said, from now on, please only check Facebook for the updates, and if you got any question about my mother, please Facebook message me. He said, I won't be checking any other thing but Facebook. And when he did it, I realized, okay, because it's a lot of people, easier to reach than texting so many people. Even WhatsApp, I think, I don't know, there's a limit on how many people can WhatsApp at the same time. So I understood that's the philosophy. It's fast, spreads easily, and you can get a lot of people at one time. And this is something very personal, very, to me, very sad and very difficult time, but he's doing all of that on Facebook. Of course, I didn't say, why are you doing on Facebook? I just like, okay, that's kind of what we're talking about. So it's part of their life, as I said, both good or bad. Now, the other thing I was going to say is, if you look at this slide, of course, not everybody's on Facebook, but a lot of, almost everybody's on the top. My question is, what good can you see out of it? Or even the previous one where everybody's on Facebook. What would be the possible, can you see anything positive from everybody doing this? Anybody? Just shout out, yeah. Yes?
I don't know, for my personal opinion, sometimes the lecturer in front may be saying things that are not so interesting. Then in the meantime, maybe I can check my email to save some time so that I can check my email.
Very good. So one way is, another way to look, so I'm just going to take that, right, and twist it around and say, basically that student who is checking the email or whatever is not disrupting class. What counts as class disruption for me, I don't know about some of you, what counts as class disruption for me is if you make noise and disrupt another person. It would be problematic if I'm watching YouTube, I'm laughing, ha ha ha, and then I'm calling, then it's a disruption already. The whole row is now watching the YouTube and not paying attention and is making noise. Right? So to me, is if the student is not making noise, is doing something privately, individually, on their own time, because either you're right, either the lecturer is boring, or the lecturer is talking about something they already knew, or the lecturer is doing review and they know all the points. For whatever reason, the positive thing I see is actually with the advent of laptops, all of students' boundless extra energy and distraction energy can be channeled to something quietly. Those of you who haven't been teaching very long, before the generation of laptops, I mean, I thought at the time where there is no laptop, there is no cell phone. I'm not talking about smartphone, there's no cell phone even, right? The danger of that time, I remember vividly, is when they are bored or distracted, which they are a lot, you die, because then they will start talking, then they'll start disrupting your class, then they'll start making things difficult for you. So actually, I love the gadget. I'm like, okay, y'all are quiet, right? So I don't, of course, if a lot of people are not paying attention, that's bad. But if one or two, the problem ones, meaning the ones who always make a lot of noise, if they are focusing on something else, I think that's a good thing. And I always, obviously, most of the time, I try not to be a hypocritical person, because I always attend a lot of meetings as part of my job, and 99% of the time in meetings, I'm on email. Right? Because I find, meetings 3 hours long, 4 hours long, of which my item is only like 5 minutes. Forget it. You think I'm going to pay attention? I have to do other things. I have a lot of things to do, and my time is precious, right? So I think the idea that students' time is not as precious as my time is entirely not true. Students have other things. Students have a lot of things that is on their mind, probably a lot more and more pressing things like how am I going to beat my score in game, right? So that's more important than your lecture. So sometimes I think that in a way there is some positive out of it. Anything else you can see? Other than the keeping them in check so that they are distracted by any other positive things? I will link it back to what some of you said earlier, which is, okay, there's a contradiction. Some of you said it could be a learning tool. Some of you said it challenges the lecturer, right? The web, whatever they find on the web does not match what they learn in class. It may not be accurate. And also it causes problems when they disagree with the lecturer and say, hey, you know, that's not on the internet. Now, number one, you can't fight Google. Okay, I never tried to fight Google. I knew that was a losing battle. Meaning, whatever you can retain in your brain for your subject will never be as much as Google can retain in one brain. Right? You know that. I'm going to tell you, it's obvious. So, to me, the method of approaching it would be to enter class. I always tell my class, look, I know there's Google. I know there's Wikipedia, I know there's what, okay? Not everything is reliable, but it's out there, right? So whatever I'm going to say, you may disagree with me. You may say, hey, that's wrong. I say, good, show me the Google link, right? I want them to show me so that I can see, okay, what is it that is different from what I'm saying? Because sometimes the difficulty that students face is they can't discriminate. They cannot tell whether it's true or not, correct or wrong, whether this is a legitimate website or some nonsense fake website. So they have difficulty doing that. So part of asking them to show me is to get them to show me so that we can discuss, and I don't mean show me privately, we can also have a class discussion on it. Because to me, I think, for me personally, the University of the Future is not going to teach subject content. University of the Future is going to teach analytical tools. Right? University of the Future will teach a class. This will be my dream university, if I'm alive to teach it. We teach a class on filtering, selectivity, judgment, analysis. That is the kind of university we want, synthesis. Okay? Because the reality is, you are never going to have as much info as the World Wide Web. Forget it. And it's only going to get bigger, and you cannot fight it. Because your brain is like minuscule, right? Obviously, you know this. So, for me, it's like, how do you harness it? So, if you think students are going to disagree with you, excellent. Start class by saying, you know what? For this class, I'm going to say a lot of things. Surely Google is going to say something different. Go and do the Google search. When I'm talking, you can show me the Google stuff, and then we can discuss what is it that is right or wrong. So, use their search engine, use their capability that they have on their fingertips to enter into the classroom discussion on these topics. Of course, some of you may say, hey, but you know, I don't have time to be like having all this engagement. But I would say you don't have to engage them all. You just have to engage one or two. And that will send a strong message. Number one, you're not afraid of Google. If you ever show that you're afraid of Google, it's over for you. Right? Because I think the attitude that you should have is knowledge is everywhere. And hey, there are some websites that are actually excellent, more excellent than my lectures. And there are some YouTube videos that are way more excellent than I can ever be. So the idea is how to harness them and get them to use those facilities to supplement and add on to your class and make your class interesting. That I will share this very interesting strategy for class, which I think will be a challenge for Yuta, but we can try because it involves a lot of technology. This was shared to me by one of our external examiners for corporate communication. His name is Jim McNamara. He's from University of Technology in Sydney. What he said to me was like so fascinating because he uses a lot of technology in class. This is how he teaches his class. Okay, he has a huge class. I think he has class of like 200-300 students, a huge lecture, auditorium style. So he has his projector like what we have here, the PowerPoint, and he has another 2 projection screens, one on this side, one on that side. Okay, and that projection screen, one of them is I don't know how they hooked it up, but it's hooked up in such a way that students can post comments to him real time while he's teaching on one side. So when he's teaching the class, you can see the comments because he said, look, I can never ask the student to raise their hand because there's 200-300 of them, number 1. Number 2, it's hard for me to get everybody and it's faster if they can all post. So I don't know how he does it because he's a kind of an old guy, right, age-wise, but he was like really on, like so he had that host, the screen, the scroll, where he gets to see the students' comments. And of course, students realize, right, when you're in class, students are very quick to pick up on technology. So they realize when they see the scroll, if they are writing nonsense, it actually distracts from them being able to see other more fruitful or productive comments. So they won't write nonsense like that sucks or whatever, right? So what happens is students will automatically start to filter out, because this is class, professor is there, right? And students get to see other students' comments. So you're not going to write nonsense. Maybe there are some nonsense that may happen initially at the beginning, right? So he gets to see the scroll and he selects. So he gives them a kind of a guideline at the beginning that you can scroll down whatever, sync your phones or whatever. I don't know how it works technologically. I'm not a very good tech person with all these kind of things. And then he says, he's going to pick questions or pick comments as he goes. So number 1, I consider it real-time interactivity. Number 2, it's gadget-based interactivity. And he says students like love it. But I was like, I knew they would love it, but he was just saying that he never realized how awesome class would be until he did that. Right? And so then you're thinking, okay, what about the other project? So the other screen will be the screen of where he's talking on certain topics and the student will post things that relate to what he's saying. So he asked them, okay, when I'm talking, if those of you who have a lot of ideas or you are itchy fingers or whatever, you want to find stuff out that's related, another kind of link, post it so that other people can see. So effectively, he's doing like he's basically doing 3 screens, right? One is the static one where he can control, one he cannot control, student is controlling, and obviously another one student can control as well. So what you have in the classroom, the power dynamic of who controls the information immediately changes. Immediately, right? Number 1, students love it, he said obviously. Number 2, is very efficient because you have 200-300 students and he cannot remember all their names. Obviously, he cannot remember who they are. Sometimes they're sitting in different places, they're far away because in the huge auditorium. So this is fast, interactive, visual, alright? And he said he can comment and students find those students who are antisocial, who does not really like the lecturer to know who they are. That's why Malaysian students, this is a very common problem. Prefer the lecturer, don't know how they look like, don't know their name, that's the best, right? Which is very strange and different from other countries, especially in the West. So what happens is, actually I think, personally I think this is the best strategy for Asia. Because Asian students will never talk, right? But they will be busy WhatsApping you, right? So why not use this strategy? I know Utah is difficult, you know why? Technology problem. Okay. So immediately the thing that I realized is if you have technology and you have high level technology, you can make your class like really awesome. But I also realized that means your role as a lecturer has to change very substantially. Right? Number 1, you gotta be fast. You gotta be like way fast. Number 2, you gotta be very good at filtering also, selectivity. And number 3, you have to be a multitasking type lecturer. Because you have to do your own slide, you have to talk, and then you have to see what's under the posting, then you have to select. I don't know how he does it, right? And his class, I mean, because this is the Australian system, his lecture is 3 hours long. I was like, holy, so that was like crazy for me. So 3 hours of that, I'll be tired. So that's why I understand when he said, every time after class, I wiped out. I was like, of course, because practically it's like you have 3 classes, right? One that side, one this one, and one that one. But over time, when you keep doing it, you realize that it makes you actually more responsive and quicker lecturer. But it's a challenge, and I think that if anybody is willing to try, I'll be very interested to know what's the outcome. Okay, so that's one strategy that I'm sharing with you. You don't have to do something exactly like that, you can modulate it, right? So I think that if we have tablets and we have devices. We may not need to project on the screen, although I think projecting on the screen is nice. Students all get to see it. But if you have something that is more like your own tablet, you can ask students to pause and then you can also see. You know, it's like what you see on TV now. You know, TV, they try to be like interactive, and then while they're having the panel discussion, and then down there got the like ticker tape box and people are posting questions. Or sometimes they take questions, okay, then you see the guy with the tablet. I mean, iPad really revolutionized a lot of broadcasting, right? So you have the panel member sitting there, and you have the iPad. Okay, now we have an audience member from Perak giving this comment, you know. So you get info from everywhere. So I'm thinking, actually, a lot of media is doing integrated system, but university, we are behind, unfortunately. Okay, so try some of those things out and useful. Okay, now this is another thing. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so I've already shared with you a couple of strategies for thinking about the use of laptop in class, how to deal with that. Next, of course, is dealing with cell phones. Now, I have to say, this is a very polite student because you know they're putting the cell phone discreetly under the table. I'm sure in your class it doesn't happen. I'm sure it's like all out in the open, like flipping it up and everything. And this is an interesting joke which I like, but not really applicable now anymore. Okay, this joke is more applicable for a school. When I shared this joke at a secondary school, all the teachers were laughing because the students are not allowed their cell phone, but when the students do use cell phone, most of the time they are trying to do it discreetly. So yeah, it's this what I call the crutch smiling problem, right? But of course, your students don't do that. They smile above the table, right? And they don't really care whether you are looking at them or not. Okay, and in fact, it happens even for us as adults, non-students. If you're in seminar, a lot of people are checking their phones. It doesn't really become an issue. So it's normal. So what is this all a symptom of? Why is it happening? Okay, now back to this thing that I'm going to now use throughout my slide. We'll be talking about their preferences. What do they prefer? Now, studies have shown that actually the millennial generation, which is Gen Y and mostly also Gen Z, they actually like to communicate all the time. Remember, it's not about what they are communicating. It is that they like to be in communication. It could be just, hey, how's it going? Okay lah. How yesterday? Okay lah. No, it could be like all practically nothing, not saying anything about nothing, but they want to be in communication all the time now. In addition, some of you mentioned this just now when you were sharing, they want instant gratification. I think someone mentioned earlier, right? They don't want any delay, right? They want everything to be fast, instant. So blame it on Google, which has a low lag time. You do your search and boom, you get it. But you ask your teacher, your lecturer the question now, oh my god, it'll take 5 minutes. The lecturer will explain first. By the time you already got the Google info already. So they want instant gratification, everything must be fast, and 24/7 stimulation. So preferably, if you can give them something, stimulate them at all times, they would prefer rather than only a few times a day. Okay, what's the downside? Obviously, we all talked about some of the downside. But for me, the major downside for me, not about class, but it's more of like the fact that studies have shown that this generation is the most sleep-deprived generation. That means at a young age, they're sleeping a lot less, and you know that you need a lot of sleep when you're younger to grow your brain. So I hesitate to say this, but possibly their brain not growing at a fast rate, right? Or at certain types of developmental stages. So you're talking about everything being fast. They want a lot of stimulation. And I have students who